A short while ago, I released a video that appears to have ruffled some feathers. In that video, I posited that public charging infrastructure is not rationally an impediment to EV sales success at the moment. In this video, I'm going to ruffle some more feathers when I talk about why that rationally is still true, but also why this is a problem in the future that nobody really appears to be addressing, and also some additional future concerns about EV proliferation, if you want to call it that. The first and most important thing we need to talk about is the new car buyer in America, and the reality that new cars are being designed for new car buyers. I understand this is a mind-blowing thought to some folks because people are worried about what happens next, what happens to the second buyer, the third buyer, the fourth buyer. This may sound really just like tough love, but the actual answer here is that new cars are being designed for new car buyers, new car buyer tastes, new car buyer preferences, etc. They are not being designed for used car shoppers because they're the ones that come next. And that is fortunate or unfortunate depending on how you want to look at this problem. But understanding this problem also helps you understand some of the things that you may read or see out there when you hear or see reviews or commentary on electric vehicles. Most often, people are talking about electric vehicles as either a fanboy that is absolutely dyed in the wool, or someone that is not in the market for an EV or not in the market for a new car. Because interesting twist here is that in the industry that I work in, the auto review industry, a large portion of us don't generally buy new cars. In fact, actually, most of the people that I know quite well in the industry, the majority of them, high 80%, never buy new cars. They always buy a used car. So they're not really in the market. And a decent percentage of them sometimes have troubles really putting themselves in the mindset of the person that is buying the new car. And I can see this without naming names in some folks out there that have recently decided to start buying new cars for review, and their perspective has certainly changed. Some might say in a positive way, some might say in a negative way. But the key thing here is new cars are being designed for people that are buying new cars. That's definitely number one. Number two is the demographic of a new car shopper. New car shoppers tend to be wealthier, older, and of course, home owners. And that is an important thing to keep in mind. Good data here is hard to come by, but Hedges & Company has done a lot of research on this. You can find some of their studies online. They do some mailing list things and they get a large amount of data, and then they try and sell that on to other companies. Now, manufacturers of vehicles generally don't want to share all of the demographic data on their purchasers, but we do have some data. So, for instance, from Tesla, the average Tesla shopper definitely skews towards the wealthier side of things. A Model S owner, on average, has a household income of about $151,000. Model 3 on the low end of the spectrum at $133,000. That is still very high for a new car and very high for America, generally speaking, where the average household income in America is around $68,000. I should say the median household income is around $68,000. The skew towards an older demographic, a wealthier demographic, and a home-owning demographic doesn't just apply to EVs, however. A full 93% of all new vehicle buyers in 2022 own their own home. And generally speaking, over 90%, that is a single-family home, not an apartment, not a condo, not a townhome, etc. We're talking single-family home, most likely in suburbia somewhere. That's who's buying new cars, generally speaking, in North America. Also, they tend to skew older than some people might think. 48% of sedans, 57% of SUVs, 50% of new trucks sold in the United States were purchased by someone 55 years old or older. Under 25, that's less than 1% in all categories. So the theory that maybe a Mitsubishi Mirage or a Nissan Versa is the starter vehicle for someone that comes right out of college or right out of high school and wants to buy a brand new car, that's just not true. The person that is buying a Versa definitely skews younger than average for the industry. But even then, on average, a Versa is being purchased by someone that owns their home and just wants less expensive transportation. Ditto EVs, plug-in hybrids, etc. Interestingly, EVs mirror the rest of the market very closely, with 54% being 55 years old or older. It's only slightly younger than an SUV demographic and actually a little older than the truck demographic in North America. Plug-in hybrids, on the other hand, skew a little bit younger, with 54% of buyers being between 25 and 54. Now, I think that makes sense because that demographic is going to be a little bit less established. Maybe they have a little bit less cumulative wealth buildup, and they're interested in something that's a little bit less expensive. Oddly enough, it's the sedan segment that skews most heavily towards renters, but not really that heavily when you look at it because it's only about 10% renter, 90% homeowner. Why is this critical? Again, it's because cars are designed for that new car shopper. In the United States, about 55 million cars are sold every year, but about 40 million of them are used cars. Only about 14 to 15 million cars roll off of a new car lot every year. And with those new vehicles being designed for new car shoppers, you could see that it would be very easy to adapt them to a single-family homeowner lifestyle. In a rational world, my concern to society generally as a whole ends up being more with what happens 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when we see larger volumes of EVs moving to demographics that maybe don't have the ability to support charging at home or at the office, which is why in that other video I talked about the importance of office-place charging. Workplace charging is absolutely critical, but of course it's not the entire deal because there are still going to be people that are retired or disabled or whatever that have a car and maybe they do need public charging infrastructure. But this is a secondary concern to new EV adoption in the United States because that's not a primary consideration for the people that are actually buying a new EV. And I think that's why we see such a clamor for every new EV that's available in the United States. Pretty much nobody can keep them on the lot. They're just flying off the shelves at a record pace. We don't know what the true demand for electric vehicles in North America is because we don't have enough to satisfy the current demand. We'll only know where that limit is once vehicles start sitting on the dealer lots. Now, that could be happening to Tesla at the moment because we are seeing more Teslas sitting on the lot than we have in a really long time. But honestly, we're not at a day where 190 days roll by and a Tesla's still hanging there on the lot. The turn time is still pretty decent. Now that I've done the brass tacks section of this video, let's talk about used car concerns. I have been accused of being a little bit dismissive of used EV concerns in some other videos, and this is a tricky topic because it's not critical to new car purchases, but yes, it is something that I am very, very concerned about when we talk about just society in general, because affordable new cars that are reliable and dependable and perfectly serviceable, that's incredibly important for the American economy because, again, 40 million used cars are sold in the United States every year, and they go to people of all walks of life, people that are homeowners, people that are wealthy, people that are poor, etc. Everybody's buying used cars for a variety of different reasons in North America, so making them affordable, dependable, pragmatic, etc. is incredibly important. And this is an area where EVs are of special concern. Let me be really frank about that. Battery life is a concern, infrastructure is a concern, etc. All of that is a very valid concern when we're talking about the second life of any EV that is currently being sold in North America. We don't really have too much control over that at the moment, however, but that is going to become an increasing concern over time. I am not entirely clear whether we will see enough money and just attention being spent on a problem that new car buyers don't necessarily care about. This is kind of the sideways problem with the infrastructure not really being a problem for the first sale, but is a problem for the secondary sale. If you're a renter and your apartment complex doesn't offer any kind of EV charging and your employer doesn't offer any kind of EV charging, where are you going to charge? You're going to charge at a public charging station. Then it's a problem. But there's more of a problem than just that. Say we have a used car on the market right now and you're taking a look at a used RAV4 or a used Tesla Model Y. There's a world where maybe these two vehicles could be similarly priced. I mean, the Model Y probably has a bit more wear and tear, but theoretically there could be something like that. There could be a compact crossover that runs on gas and a compact crossover that runs on electricity that are relatively similarly priced. There really is no world anytime soon where these two vehicles will have comparable range. The RAV4 is going to give you 300 to 400 miles of range, a little bit more if you get the hybrid model. The used EV over here, even if it was very lightly loved, would give you maybe 300 miles of range when it was new. I think that's an acceptable thing. But what happens after 5 years or 6 years or 8 years? The average person's keeping their new car longer and longer in the United States. So what about a 7-year Tesla Model Y that has 100,000 miles on it? Or perhaps a vehicle that doesn't hold its battery charge quite as well as a Tesla Model Y? What if it's insert whatever EV you want here? What if it's a discount EV? What if it is a first generation EV and it's lost half of its battery life? Well, that person is going to rely more on public DC fast charging. That battery is going to wear even faster. What are we going to do with all these batteries? All of these are valid questions. How is it going to fit into these people's lives? Remember that time is money, so we're talking about productivity as a society. And if you're spending 30 minutes to DC fast charge your EV every other day, every week, whatever it might be, this is a productivity concern. It's a lifestyle concern. It's a quality of life concern. All of these are absolutely valid things to be concerned about if we ever got to a world where 40 million EVs were being transacted every year. So yes, I'm concerned about it. Yes, I think it's a valid concern. Is it a valid concern right now? Absolutely not in my mind. We have a lot of time to solve this problem, and EVs might not be the solution forever for this problem. Even in a fever dream where we could reach 100% of new car sales being fully battery electric vehicle in 2030 or 2040 or 2050, it's going to take a very, very long time until all used cars being moved around the United States are full electric vehicles. And then this might be more of a problem. Anyway, let me know what you think about that down there in the comment section below, especially if you have ever found better statistics than the ones that I have discussed in this video. The interesting twist with some of the numbers that I've talked about is that they do bear out what manufacturers are willing to share as far as their demographics. One of the most interesting things that I took away from a drive in a Chevy Bolt was that their marketing department was bragging that the average demographic of a Chevy Bolt shopper and a Chevy Corvette shopper are actually shockingly similar. And I always thought that was a little bit weird until I really started digging into this topic to discover that on average, again, new cars are being purchased by people that are older, that are wealthier, and are single-family homeowners. That's just the way this market seems to work in the United States. There are obviously outliers here. When we're talking about an industry this big, 7% of the market being sold to renters is a pretty big number. But it also means that if nobody that rented wanted an EV and nobody that rented bought a new EV, we could still get to 14 million EV sales in the United States, and 1 million people could still be buying a gasoline vehicle if they wanted to. Let me know what you think about that as well down there in the comment section, and what other topics should we cover in maybe a weekly segment that we're going to try and focus on here in 2023. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and I'll see all of you later.